scope, schedule, and budgets together to make things happen. So my why. Why am I doing this? It's three basic reasons. Number one, God told me to do this. He's been telling me to do this for a while, and I've kind of ignored him up to this point. So I finally surrendered over the last many months. The other reason I'm doing this is I'm trying to transfer hard-earned knowledge and skills to God's people. And then lastly, legacy building. I'm doing my part to train more disciples to do God's kingdom building work here on the earth. So, and that's kind of what I've been doing, except I'm trying to be a little bit more intentional about that now. Hopes for this Bible class. I'm hoping that we can be the partner God wants us to be by dreaming through his eyes and taking measurable action to see those dreams manifest. So that's why we're here. You know, a lot of folks they're like, well, I don't know my purpose of being here. Well, our purpose for being here, as I see it, is to help build God's kingdom on the earth in partnership with him through the Spirit of Jesus Christ. And then what am I doing? So the work, I'm doing the work to transform our minds using God's word to move us forward towards kingdom building success. So I believe that everything that happens a lot of times in our actions starts right between our ears, in our minds. And I think if we do these things, we can have the joyful life God intended that will blow our minds. So as we walk through this evening, I'm going to need you to sort of imagine through God's lens, your life for yourself, life for our community, life for Black people, for example. So I pulled this word, imagine, and it's a verb, and its meaning form a mental image or a concept of oneself or something. Some of the synonyms is visualize, dream about, picture, conceptualize, think, and some things that go opposite of imagine, ignoring, disregarding, and having doubt. Okay. All of those are natural emotions, though. So what we're about to do now is to go into a little movie clip that will help us sort of frame our thinking as we continue on this evening. It'll be familiar to most of you. I'm talking about dreams and being misunderstood. And one of my favorite quotes here is, most people, in this case men, per the author, lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the song still in them. And so I believe that many of us are walking the earth every day miserable about what we're doing every day. And so in this video of A Raisin in the Sun, we will see two characters having a really intense conversation. Sidney Poitier playing the role of Walter Lee Younger, the son, and his mother, who is the deceased, the late, great Claudia McNeil, who is playing the mother role of Lena Younger. And so this film debuted in 1961, and it still has relevance today. So here we go.
Mama, I want so many things. I want so many things that sometimes I think they're going to drive me crazy. See, I'm 35 years old, and I ain't got nothing. I ain't going to be nothing, Mama. Just look at me. Look at me.
I'm looking at you. And you're a good-looking boy. You got a job, a fine wife, a son.
A job? Now, I open and close car doors all day. I drive a man around in his limousine, and I say, yes, sir. And no, sir. And should I take the drive, sir? Mama, that is a job. That is nothing at all. Even if I can make you understand.
Understand what, baby?
Well, sometimes it's like I can see my future just stretched out in front of me, my whole future. A big, blank, empty space full of nothing, just hanging at the edge of my days waiting for me. But it don't have to be. Sometimes when I'm downtown driving that man around, we pass them cool, quiet-looking restaurants. I look in. I see these white boys. They sit talking about deals worth millions of dollars, Mama, and half the time they don't look no older than that.
Oh, son, how come you talk so much about money?
Because it's life.
So now money is life. Once upon a time, freedom used to be life, but now it's money.
Mama, it was always money. We just didn't know it.
No. Something's changed. You're something new, boy. In my time, we was worried about not being lynched and getting to the north and how to stay alive and still have a pinch of dignity, too. Now here come you and Benita talking about things we ain't hardly ever thought about, me and your daddy. You ain't satisfied or proud of nothing we done. I mean that you had a home and that we kept you out of trouble till you was grown. And that you don't have to ride to work on the back of nobody's streetcar. You're my children, but how different we've become.
You don't understand. You don't understand.
Those last few words. Anybody get those last few words? You ever feel like nobody understands you? Your dreams, your aspirations? And so I'd like to have a little brief conversation among us about how this moved you, if it did at all. You know, what kind of came to your mind, your heart?
I think you look at the times. You have to look at both parties' point of view. I get the mother's part, but like I said, that would be my opinion, my member, what was important to them back then. Because like you said, keeping them out of trouble. My mother said in Florida, not being able to drive up north to go see her brother. When it got dark, having to pull over on the side of the road. And something we take for granted. I mean, I can drive to Florida day or night. But she said, as soon as it got dark, you pulled off the road and tried to get somewhere safe. Because you're worried about being late for it. Women being taken in the rape. And it's just, and when you look at the flip side, that he's standing out, he's in a newer generation. That he wants what everybody else has. And her point was she just wanted to be safe and keep her family safe.
Thank you for sharing, Ron. Anyone else want to share? Linda?
Well, I had some mixed feelings. It made me sad.
Which part made you sad?
Well, it made me sad because it was kind of it took me back to when I was like a young girl. When I was growing up in South Carolina, and I could see, like, because I grew up around my grandparents and great grandparents, and my grandmother, that brought back like a vision of my grandmother telling us that, you know, when we said we're going to integrate the schools in 65, and they said that we should be safe. Like Ron said, why we want to do that, why we want to make changes, why we want to upset things. They didn't say the status quo, they said, why you want to go upset things because it was going to affect them. She said, in the play, she said that they were just living for free. Now they talking about money. We were looking for opportunities because we knew we were being treated different. And like you said, when it got dark, it wasn't even like as big as driving to see your relatives in another town and having to know what the green book was and know where to stop at the gas stations and where you could get food and where you got to pull off the road so people can go to the bathroom in the woods, you know, stuff like that. It wasn't even that remote. It was just walking to like your cousin's house in the country that when a car light was coming, you retreated to the woods because you knew that somebody's going to run you off the road, you were going to be like roadkill because you were going and sometimes you had to go, but to like walk places because there were no buses, there was no public transportation, people that had cars. So you had to walk, but you had to know the path through the woods. You know, even in the daytime, you never walk the road in the daytime because they could see you from afar. But at night, you made sure you went through the woods, you know, and you stop moving so that nobody would hear you until you could get places, you know. how there was nobody to support you when you integrated to schools. And that's what you heard from all the older people at church. And they would say, why are you trying to make changes? We heard you went to that school. Don't come here if people bother you. So it made me sad that that happened. But I think that he persevered and we did what we did and we made changes. So for those from the baby boomer years, we were able to give our children and our grandchildren a different life.
Yeah.
And it was about the money. He's right. It was about the money, right?
Yeah. So thank you for sharing. On the screen here are some words. It's kind of what we call word puzzle to sort of, draw out maybe from your minds and my mind some thoughts centered around the movie. But they're both sides of that movie trailer, as you guys have expressed. There's the safety mindset of the mom, and there's the ambition and futuristic thinking of the son. So at the end of the day, we have to decide how we, deal with these kinds of mixed circumstances. And we're faced with that even today with an presidential administration that thinks differently than us. So we have to decide what would be the foundation for how we think and move for the next 4 years, for example. So this first class, I'm kind of using the headline of being brave enough to be a dreamer when others don't understand. And Linda talked about seeing herself in this video based upon her lived experience, being one of the first to integrate school, in the 60s, many years ago. Do you ever feel like folks who are closest to you, even loved ones, somehow rain on your parade, right? Your dream parade. Have you said, well, I'm up in age now, and so I've done enough. I don't need to dream anymore. Do you ever feel stuck because of fear and anxiety forced upon you by other people? Every day we're getting on our phone some new, news feed about some other crazy, outlandish thing. And so we have to decide, do we keep reading that every day? Do we sort of figure out how to reduce the quantities that we ingest? How do we move ahead with our lives? So let me share a little bit about my story related to this topic. When I was a kid, early in my late teens, my mother at the time was a single parent, raising me and my sister. She would sometimes say, son, we're not rich. We can't do what's the things that your friends do. So I went to 3 different high schools with kids who came from more affluent backgrounds, and that wasn't me. And so I'm watching them and hearing them, and I'm inspiring to kind of be like them. But, we didn't have the resources to do that. And so as I got older and through growth, sometimes I found I had to really work hard in my mind to push through those mental limitations. Or I had to work through trying to prevent those things from being mental limitations. And I had to work towards elevating my thinking. And so God has helped me to do that over many years. And so I had to reframe my way of thinking, right? And I don't take credit for that. This is the Bible that I started with. This Bible was given to me in 1996. Okay. I have another Bible at home. It doesn't look like this, but this is my growth Bible. This is the Bible that helped me figure out even, that there's 66, books in the Bible, and I could actually start learn. I actually started learning how to go to places in the Bible. These were my training wheels. And you may think, well, Lennox, why don't you throw this away? Why are you using duct tape to hold the binding together? Well, I won't forget where I came from. And so it's a reminder. And so one of the things I've come to understand through my growth, spiritual growth and understanding, is that I was destined to live a life different from others. I was going to be a first relative to my family background. And so we have to decide through our growth in the word, are we prepared to be different? That takes a lot of courage to actually be viewed as someone who's an outlier. Folks did not want Linda and her cohorts to integrate to school because of their fear for themselves and for her. But Linda said, along with others and her parents said, you're going to be different. It's going to be hard, but you're going to be different. So what have been some of the things that have helped me to change my thinking in the word, right? And how has that translated in my work life as an entrepreneur, as a real estate developer and general contractor? And so you see here becoming, right? So that's former First Lady Michelle Obama's book title. And I apply that for me, and perhaps you can comment on it as well. I'm not there yet. Where God has me going in terms of spiritual growth, I'm not there yet. And so it's a constant, gradual process. Can someone else kind of speak to that? You're becoming. Do you feel that you're on this continuum of step by step by step, sometimes even working backwards? Can someone share? Cornell?
I can definitely agree with this idea of becoming. Sometimes feels like, as you say, feel like you're taking steps back. But just being able to always believe and trust that, God is still there. No matter, he sees everything that you're going through, no matter if it's good or bad, and sometimes he may take you back for a lesson, or to protect you from something, so just continue to have that trust and faith that, and asking for guidance, and bless us with the plans that he has for our lives.
Yes. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else care to share? So
I think, like you were saying, and I think a lot of people get that misconception of why has God abandoned you? And my thing is, I don't think he's abandoned us. It's like with any child, you can't hold a child's hand through life. I mean, like with me, when I left home at 17, and I'm 7 of us. All my siblings still live within a mile of where we were born. And I'm just, why do you want to leave? I'm like, there's a world out there. Even my parents, you need to stay close. I'm like, Mom, I said, I can't. I said, there's things out there. But I knew I had them there if I needed. But like I said, and a lot of people say, oh, God ain't doing it. I said, you can't depend on God for everything. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but how can you grow if you don't sometimes, like you say, leave the faith?
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. But a lot of people, they get scared. You get a lot of things. Like I look at my siblings, they're in their comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and when I go home and visit, I always laugh and say, you still here. Not that there's nothing wrong there, don't get me wrong, but my sister has never flown, won't get on a plane, has never left the state of Florida. She's 63 years old.
Yeah.
My brother left My brother's 77, just turned 77. He left home once when he went to visit my uncle. That was back in the 70s. I said, but been in the same, after he left home, same house he's been in, which is nothing wrong with it. I'm just like, you guys, well, I'm comfortable. I said, but don't you want more?
Yeah.
And I just find it so amazing that some people, like I said, they're content with it. It's not that there's anything wrong with that, but my thing, how can you grow and want to aspire for different things if you don't go out and experience it?
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for sharing. So these two scriptures, I'm sure we all have our favorite scriptures, right? And our go-to scriptures, right? And so these two scriptures sort of relate to these photos, which I'll make the connection in a minute. Matthew 5:14-16, you are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. And so what that has done for me is really giving me more freedom through the course of my 31-year business journey to really be bold and knowing that I belong in the space of real estate development, that I am charged with the responsibility by the Lord to help rebuild broken communities. That has not been easy for me to embrace over these many years because it's hard work. It's really hard work. But along the way, he's allowed me to enjoy some wins. And so what you see here on the screen is a housing development called Bernard Place that we did back in the late 90s and early 2000s in the Inglewood community, anchored by St. Bernard Catholic Hospital. Matter of fact, it was a partnership between my company and St. Bernard Hospital. And what you're seeing here is construction that resulted in 45 newly built homes that we sold in that community, helping to re-strengthen that community. And so then this other scripture from Romans 12:2, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. And so it all comes back to us, right? A lot of it, how we think, and then how we see ourselves in the world, how we see ourselves in places and spaces, workplaces, social settings. Do we make ourselves small when others are not even making us small? Sometimes we make ourselves small. Or do we exude a largeness about ourselves, and just recognize that that's what God is calling upon us to do, to shine our light. Shine our light. We all have a light. And so he wants us to shine it. And then, I have been blessed with, along this spiritual journey, with the opportunity of being able to connect dots, being able to see possibilities, and then trying to figure out how to pull those parts and pieces together and pursue and transfer that into some sort of business model. And so some of the things that have helped me to do that over the years included entering some spaces that made me uncomfortable, meaning around people, college school settings, right? The fraternity. I'm a member of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. People connections, entering into spaces where there's a diversity of thought. There's value in diversity, equity, and inclusion, but there's value in the diversity of thought, because sometimes we may be too close to an idea, but if we hear another vantage point, another viewpoint, it opens our minds. Okay. Reading has been a big part of my growth, not just the Bible. Events, meetings, listening to progressive people, living in different cities during my career development. All of these things have helped shape my journey and has helped me to understand that part of my role here on earth in partnership with Christ is to regenerate, to make things, to restore things. And so what you see here on the screen is a housing development I did a single family flip some years ago, where we gutted the whole thing and then transformed it. You can see the picture below it. And so this was a hard freaking deal. It really was. And I ended up having to linger with it longer than we had projected at the very beginning when we put in the numbers together. So Jeremiah 29:10-11 says, this is God's word on the subject. As soon as Babylon's 70 years are up and not a day before, I'll show up and take care of you as I promised and bring you back home. I know what I am doing. I have it all planned out. Plans to take care of you, not abandon you. Plans to give you the future you hope for. That's a hard one. That's a tough one to sometimes hold on to, because let's face it, we're lifing every day. We wake up in the morning, we put those feet on the floor. Maybe we can brush our teeth first before going to this, maybe not. But we don't know what's coming at us when we pick this up. And then suddenly, we're frazzled. We're in a whole different place. So we have to recognize that God has plans for each of us. But by staying in his word, he helps us to remember that. So as we are nearing the end, I thought it would be good to sort of refer to the this recent big heavyweight fight, right? I like sports of all kind. And so this was Mike Tyson against Jake Paul. Mike Tyson lost the fight. I think we all remember. But I was really fascinated by what Mike Tyson said after the fight. I knew he was a good fighter. He was prepared. I came to fight. I didn't prove nothing to anybody, only to myself. I'm not one of those guys that live to please the world. I'm just happy with what I can do. That's all God wants from us, is to do our part. Take on the talents and the skills and the gifts he's bestowed upon us and resist in place. Someone I know coined that phrase. Just do what we can where we are and let God handle the rest. This Bible class for me is another example of, he said, I need you to do this. I want you to do this. And I resisted, and because I thought it was bigger than me. He said, just do this part. And start in February. Pitch the pastor about the idea of doing it in the shortest month of the year, is Black History Month. So, that's what I did. So some of the main points here about this is encouraging us to be bold and imagine possibilities. That word we started with there early on in our session here tonight. Imagine possibilities. Think differently. We have to protect our authentic self. So many folks want us to conform to who they are, to be who they are. And there's so much value in diversity. So God wants us to be who we are. Value the dreamer we are, even if nobody else understands it. And then push through the fear and anxiety about pursuing that dream. So let me pause. I know we're nearing the end, but let me just see, is this connecting with you guys? Is this resonating? Is it, Felix, what's going through your head?
I was looking at the last slide you just had there, and the last one says fear and anxiety. And those are two things that, for me, are one of the drivers of why I go fast. When I think of fear, I think of the story of Moses and getting the people who were out of Egypt. But they wondered for the next 40 years because they were fearful of taking what God had made. I'm like, okay, if I'm fearful to the point where I can't move, same happened to me, so I try to push past it. Anxiety, I think of the story of Joseph, a smart guy. He had all these challenges in life before he got to where God wanted him to go. So I'm like, I just sit and be stressed about it. that'll stop me too. So I have to face each challenge because there's growth in it and it'll get me to a place where joy. So I kind of grabbed that last bullet there and I'm like, that speaks a lot. You know, if you really think about it. So that's what
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. So some takeaways from our time together this evening. These are just mine. It's my thinking that God uses dreams to transfer his ideas and strategies and solutions to each of us. They are customized only for you and for me. You know, some people say, well, was that a dream? What is the meaning of that? I have found that in time, God reveals what that dream was about. Move in silence. Treat God's transmitted dreams to you with care. Limit those you share them with to an absolute minimum, because not everybody can understand. And then last, it's likely few, if anyone, will understand your dream. That's okay. After a conversation with God and listening to him, move forward anyway. So we've been sharing some thoughts, you know, here and there. We have a few more minutes before we conclude our time together this evening. I want to open it up to you hitting me with questions. You know, I want to be an open book for the little time that we have about what my experience has been as an entrepreneur. So if there are any questions, thoughts you want to share, this is the time to do it.
What do you think was your biggest obstacle?
What do I think was my biggest obstacle? I started the business with $14,000. I was so undercapitalized. And I knew that real fast after I resigned from my job. If I just had to boil it down to one thing, Ron, which is really hard, I would say the biggest obstacle for me was trying to make sure that I could maintain enough financial strength to care for my family. That was always in my head, you know, and it created a hustle. It created a grind, working a lot, trying to make sure I don't drop that ball. Any other thoughts, questions? Yes, Felix.
What was the motivation to take the next step? You said you left your job. You started working for it. What was the motivation? What made you step up?
Great question. So the question for our virtual class is, what was the reason? What caused me to leave the job? What was my motivation? Well, I had worked for a real estate development company here in Chicago. They no longer exist, and I had finished a $15 million deal, and then they quickly assigned me to a second deal, which was 8.7. And the first project, I had this consultant working on my team, and he was working with me, and I had in the budget $25,000 for his fee, but I was doing the work. But he was calling chit chat all the time, but I'm doing the work. You know, he made some value added contributions. But anyway, it came down from my performance review and conversation around performance bonus. And I never forget it. They offered me $2,500. And I'm like, whoa, time out. This does not make sense to me. And so I requested a meeting with my supervisor, and also the president of the company joined two of us in a meeting at the Lakeshore Ramada Hotel. I never forget it, over tea. And I told them that was unacceptable, and I needed them to reconsider. And with a very polite smile, they said, we won't be doing that. I said, okay. It was less than 60 days thereafter I rendered my letter of resignation. In that 60-day period, I was working. I was unmarried at the time, no children. I was working. My hours after work were devoted to preparing for my departure. I was setting myself up. And when I submitted my letter of resignation, they were stunned. But I said, if I'm going to work this hard, if I'm going to be pouring so much of my life out for someone, it needs to be for me. Now, along the way, these 31 years, I've paid a high cost for that liberty. It's just like Harriet Tubman and many others who are here displayed during the Black History Month. What we don't understand, and Jesus Christ, they paid a real cost. And we're going to talk about that in next week's Bible class. There's a cost, as the word says, for all of us to bear. Why should we go free from bearing some costs? And so I'm not here encouraging people to quit their jobs if they don't want to. But what I am here saying is that we have to remember the word says we're not here on our own. We're here on assignment. That's why we're here, to praise and worship God and to do the work of kingdom building here on the earth. That's our assignment. Now, we each have a different specific way that's done. And I'm hopeful that if we haven't found it already, we will find that. But in whatever path we take, understand there's a cost. Whether you stay in corporate America, there's a cost. If you go out as an entrepreneur, there's a cost. How about some more questions like that?
Why is Who Moved My Cheese your favorite book?
Great question. Why is Who Moved My Cheese one of my favorite books? Because approximately during the mortgage crisis of 2007, 2008, like companies around the world, it had a tremendous negative impact on my business. And things just started spiraling out of control. Had 2 kids at a private school, and it was tough. And so I'm like, okay, God, what do we do here? He said, well, I need you to take a sabbatical with the business. I need you to get a job. And so I did. But it was after reading that book, because the book is based on 4 mice. And it's about the cheese had moved. And each mouse responded differently. And couple of mice just decided, well, we're going to hang out here. We know some new cheese is going to come down from heaven. We're just going to hang out right here. In the meantime, time is clicking. Other mice said, nope, we don't know where the cheese is next, but we can't stay here. We just got to go. We got to walk by faith and not by sight. So for me, I ended up putting the business on pause for a minute, and I returned to corporate. And went to work for Walgreens Corporation in Deerfield in their construction and real estate group. This is when corporations could get talent for very cheap, including me. But it got me a check every once a month. It got me health insurance, all the health insurance, and it got me some stability. And so I did it for just under 4 years. Along the way, I remembered Maya Angelou's book, The Caged Bird Sings. It's interesting when you've flown freely and at certain levels, when you put that bird back in the cage, that eventually that bird will die because they've experienced something different, freedom to soar. And so I was emotionally dying. I also knew, because this is when the company Boots Alliance out of the UK bought Walgreens. So I had a front row seat in seeing the transition, and I was seeing how the company was changing. And I'm like, remember now, I came in as a business owner who used to hire people. And I said, if I don't get out of here in a minute, they're going to kick me out of here. So I'm like, here's my letter of resignation to my manager. We had a great relationship. In less than 3 weeks, some of my coworkers got pink slips. I saw it coming. Because remember, I'm a business owner. I look at things differently. And so I left with 3 months severance, and that money went like, boop. And so now I'm back in the saddle with Urban Equities, and had to sort of hustle again to get some traction. And that was in 2017. So choices, right? Every day we're making decisions. Not making decisions, making a decision. And so we make decisions, hope we're making the right ones. We ask the Lord to give us his godly wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And then we have to go. So I'm glad I went through that. I'm glad I made that decision to go to Walgreens. It changed my mind. It expanded my thinking. It exposed me to things on a whole nother level, global. So while at the beginning I resisted the idea, although I was trying to take care of my family, at the end, as I became, I saw that that was a necessary journey for me. So this concludes our time. I want to thank you guys for bearing with us at the beginning with some of our technical difficulties. We'll make sure that next Wednesday we work through all of that. And I want to thank you for coming out. And certainly, if you don't mind, you can decide if you want to do it tonight or at one of the other classes. If you would just take time to answer those about 7 questions on the survey, it will help me to fine tune this and make sure that God's work is done. So thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you guys for joining us in the virtual world. Thank you, Pastor Troy, for helping to move that along.
Sure, we'll fix it. We'll get it straight.
Oh, yeah.
So y'all join us next week. We'll be here every Wednesday. Lennox is leading us, and so we're grateful for all of you. Y'all be blessed. If you're in Chicago, stay warm. Weather's gonna break soon. Be well. God bless.